Thanks for joining us on the King Law Podcast, where we give you a lawyer's perspective on anything legal. Or not. From criminal law, personal injury, and trending legal topics, we're your back pocket legal guide.
I know, okay. I got a topic.
All right.
Let's talk about all the stuff that we do that they never tell you about in law school.
Okay. Well, you start since I haven't been to law school.
Correct. But what you do, so everything that I'm doing, you're doing. Mm-hmm. We're running a law office. Mm-hmm. We're going to court. We're litigating cases. And you learn about kind of sort of how to do that in law school. But let's just talk about some of the other stuff that we do, that really you do, or we do together. End? The business end. So, for example, we have a call coming up for health insurance. Mm-hmm. You want to have employees, they have to be able to go to the doctor.
Yeah. Hopefully.
You have a law firm, you want law firm coffee cups, mm-hmm. You have to buy them somewhere.
Yes.
Oh, you want a logo? You have to get that somewhere too. Yeah. And you want a website.
Yep.
You have to get that somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Insurance.
You want an office? Where do you want your office to be? How much do you want to pay? How much insurance do you want to have?
Do you want to own the building or rent it?
Right. How long do you want to rent it for? Mm-hmm. What's a good term? How much should rent go up every year?
And where do you see your company in 10 years?
Correct. How much do you want to pay your employees? Mm-hmm. What is your 401k matching program?
Oh, I forgot about that.
How are you going to get a 401k?
Yep. How are you going to decorate the office?
Who's going to do the decoration? Who's going to pick the art? Who's going to hang the art?
Well, I think we know that. We know who.
What happens when the carpet that you just paid for
gets messed up?
Yeah.
And has to come back 3 times.
Correct.
Yeah, there is
Who gets the better parking spots?
Yep. Yeah. I think there's a lot that people don't know about running a business. And the amount of money it takes to run every day.
Yeah, every single day.
Mm-hmm. Did you expect your office to be what it is now?
Yeah, I did. And I think we'll continue to grow because that's what, to me, there's a lot of really great lawyers. You go to law school, and I mean, there's so many smart people out there, and mm-hmm. they get trained to really litigate. But what I think all the stuff we were just talking about, the challenge is you're trained to think a certain way. You're trained to be aggressive, and those skills to be a successful attorney are not always the same skills to bring people together. Mm-hmm. They're not the same skills to think about long-term investment. We're dealing with, our friends, high-level litigators, top-level litigators, aggressive, determined, steadfast. Those are the words that come to mind. Mm-hmm. But there's a certain level of ego that goes with being successful. And, what I've always thought is there's so many great lawyers. Who's the person that's going to bring those people together and allow them to do great things for our clients mm-hmm. and our staff? And that's another, it's a big question that I've always had. I mean, you've obviously heard this. My thought is we can't help people if you're worried about yourself, if you're worried about your health care, mm-hmm. if you're worried about, do I have enough money to pay rent? So,
right.
But people say the customer always comes first, and I'll be perfectly honest with you, not here. Here, our people come first, because if we're not taken care of, we can't take care of other people.
Right.
And that doesn't mean we want to do a great job for all of our clients, but.
Yeah. I mean, I have to say, not just because I'm part of the staff, but I think the staff that you choose can make or break you. Yeah. I mean, you can be a great lawyer, but as you grow, you need help. And if the help isn't growing with you, you're not going to be successful.
So and a lot of people don't know this, but my mom was a legal secretary, and then became a secretary at Xerox at the high level of human resources, very high up. And she was a straight up secretary. That's what I was. That was my mom. And I learned what law offices and what offices were like, not from the perspective of the executive, but the people who were doing the grunt work. So that's how I was raised, and I hope we, if you look at the total amount of stuff that comes out of a law office, the non-lawyers are probably producing more than the lawyers. So you better have some good people.
Yeah. I think that's
and not just good lawyers.
I think that's something that you do well here, is that you take the time and you ask us, how do you want to grow? And you help us figure that out, because if we're growing, you will as well.
Right.
And I think that's a unique circumstance, because I don't see a lot of companies taking the time to do that. And so I think that makes you kind of unique.
Yeah, and that probably goes back to how you're raised and different things that you take part in. But we have people here who are super experienced paralegals, and it's not it's like, what are you going to do next? I think everybody, and that's our kind of my vision for the firm and for everyone at the firm, is you're growing or you're dying, and you can't just stay the same. It's not good for people. It's not good for us. Nothing really stays the same.
If you're comfortable, you're not growing.
Right. And when you're growing, you're not comfortable. And we're really good at, and I think people sometimes they get, and that's a tough position for me as the person who's trying to bring people together and trying to grow and create new things. And you do have a certain level of conflict, which doesn't always feel good. It's not, you're not always friendly. I think in some ways, I think the term's way overused, but it's more like than friends. We're not always friends, like where you have to push on other people sometimes. And that is, that's hard.
It can be hard.
That's hard.
On the receiving end as well. Like when you're being pushed to grow and you're not necessarily sure or confident in that you can grow in the way that, you're thinking, it's a lot. It can be a lot. But I've grown so much in the last 10 years here, and it's helped me understand my growth and confidence. I've realized in the last 10 years that I can do a lot more than I ever thought I could.
Yeah. So, and I don't feel free to interrupt me, but we started out answering the phones here.
Yes.
11 years ago. And I think that is, we started out with a few people, and
which was never my long-term plan either, was to be in a law office, because I was going to school for public relations. So I was just doing this part-time.
Correct. And for a few weeks, 10 years ago.
Yeah. But I'm glad I did stay, because I was able to grow in more ways than any college degree could give me.
Yeah, you ran a political campaign.
Right.
When Christy decided to run for judge, she was a lawyer that worked with us. You were really...
Yeah, we did that. We started a podcast. We,
Our website had 10,000 people last month. We had 10,000 people who wanted to read something about our law firm in 1 month. That was... one of the website people told me that the other day. It was our first month ever. So we've been doing this for 10 years. We've had a website for 10 and a half years. And last month, 10,000 people came for whatever, over 10 cents. I don't know how long they got to be on their firm to count, but that's a hell of a lot of people that give a shit about you.
Yeah. It's funny because people ask me, they're like, what do you do?
I do everything.
Well, what is your title? I was like, well, it depends on the day. So... I do a lot of different things. I would say it's probably office manager, so going from secretary to office manager, but it's not just that. It's a really unique position.
And I think people don't, in a small business, whatever the small business is, whether it's a plumbing, HVAC, whatever a small business, you have to wear multiple hats. When the firm started, I was the firm. There was one person, me.
Yeah.
And I was the IT department. I was the marketing department. I was the lawyer. I was the phone answerer. That's that's what it was. And to go from one employee, from one person to two people is hard. To go from 2 to 3 is harder, or a little bit easier. And every person's a little bit easier, and it allows you to specialize. But you're doing HR type of stuff, onboarding new employees, and that's also because you were whatever it was, employee number 2.
Right. I think your uniqueness is the fact that you're not afraid to take risks, and the risks have paid off in the sense of your business has grown, but they don't teach you how to do that in law school. So how did you figure this out?
Well, I think a lot of it comes down to complex problems have simple answers, and they're not always easy, but it's arithmetic, right? It's, if you're running a business, you have to make a profit. If you don't make a profit, you're going towards being out of business. And then what we always talk about is, by making a profit, by bringing in more than you spend, that gives you the opportunity to do new things. Like, we're in a beautiful new office, so it gives us a space to grow. It gives us a more comfortable place to meet with clients. It gives us an easier. We have underground parking now, so in snowstorm, there's
very helpful.
It gives us the opportunity to travel to conferences, whatever we want to invest in. We're going, I think, in a week or two to the municipality conference. We're going to put on a booth there, so we can take a day out of the office. I mean, we're not to meet folks from other municipalities, things like that. So, but you have to be able to financially support your ideas.
You pivot really well. You're like, this is a great opportunity. Let's go. And for me, I'm not always comfortable with that because fast change is scary to me. So you're the one who's always like, okay, we're going to do this, and this is how we're going to do it. And I'm like, okay, here we go. Which I think is a great attribute to have.
There's I think all different things. Like, I'm a fast starter. If I did like a personality, I'm able to look at something, assess it, and jump in. Once I've made my decision, I can make my decision, and I don't know if I was born that way or whatever it is, but there is some inherent risk in what we do. But I think what I would tell most people is, you're probably right, and you probably don't take enough risk. Most people are so worried about failure. Do people fail? Sure. Have we failed? Yeah, we've tried a lot of things that haven't worked. We're not betting the farm on them, but you don't. If you don't take some risk, you're going to stay where you are.
Right. Do you think it's safe to say that you should just start, or do you think there's a perfect time to wait? Like, if you want to start something, what is it that they say? Just start, you're never going to be ready.
Well, I can tell my own story. I was working at a law firm, John DeRizio, good friend of mine, a wonderful boss, and still a really close friend of mine. We do work together. He has represented me on some of my own personal things. But I was working for John, and I had ideas. That I want, and John had a really great practice here in Rochester, and I wanted to do what I wanted to do, and I told him that. And there's been so many people that have helped you along the way, and John's really one of them for me. And he says, "All right, do it. I'll help you." And he could have been upset because I had my own ideas that were a little different than his ideas. And instead, he rented me an office, and I started the firm, and it was me. But he let me use the conference rooms. He let me use the printers and all that kind of stuff. I paid him some rent. He didn't make shit off of me.
Yeah.
And Now that was 10 years ago.
And that was the start.
That was the start. The hardest part is getting started. And, it's, it's crazy. You think back and it's like, I think I was 29 or 30 and I started a law firm, and you are like, I'm going to die. Is the sun going to come up tomorrow morning? That's what you like. But we knew how to do the work, and I was working for John, and I was really functioning. John's a transactional attorney, does real estate, commercial real estate, estate work. His dad's a lawyer in town. He's been around forever, and it wasn't the type of work that I was really into.
But that really wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, no, it wasn't that long ago. So we started, and we're doing a lot of criminal work at the time. That's what I knew from my time as a prosecutor. And lo and behold, the first, half a year goes by, and you're like, holy, look, we got cases and we made money. And then it's, do I buy a new couch? Or do we do something with the money? What do we do? And
like I was able,
right? And I was able to hire Marcus.
Okay.
And he was a family member, and he came in. So now you have two people, and now you got somebody to answer the phones while you go to court, and all of a sudden you like get more clients.
Right.
And
you're able to spend more time doing more work, getting more clients.
And then I went to lunch with Joan and Kitty, and we got Office.
Yeah.
And we got you.
You acquired me.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
and then I had my own receptionist and paralegal, and then you hire your first lawyer.
Is there a moment that you're like, okay, I made it, like I'm good?
Well, no, there's not. I don't think that there never was for me. I guess there's been definitely different points that you appreciate in your career. There's when Greg came. So Greg was the first lawyer I ever hired. Brilliant guy. I knew he was a smart guy. And I remember calling him up and asking him if he was interested. And I'm like, I got a 1% chance of getting this guy, but I know I want him. So I'm going to ask if there's a 1 in 100 chance. It's a phone call. You're not too invested. And I'm like, oh, man, that's pretty wild. This guy's like willing to bet his life and his family's life on what we've created. And I guess I knew that we needed another lawyer because of how many phone calls we were getting and how there was work to be done. But if you wait until you really need them, you never get over the hump because you're always so busy working. And it was just a fundamental change once we got Greg. Now we had two people. We could help each other. We could support more staff. We could support more advertising. And at that point, things start progressing from there. We get more lawyers. We get more people. And you can, when there's only a few people, it's harder to have things like good technology and website because it's such a big percentage of your income for one person. But when you're spreading it out amongst 4 or 5 or 6 or 12 or whatever, however, 15 people, then the investments in IT and things like that, they're not as big of a deal.
Yeah. So let me ask you, what's the plan for 2024?
Well, 2024 is going to be a great year. But we just got put on the plaintiff steering committee for Covidian hernia mesh, multi-district litigation. We have spent the last year and a half, we kind of stumbled into the world of national lawsuits, and it has been a ton of fun. It's also all of our experiences prior to that. I think we're going to grow in that area. I think we have a really unique value proposition to people who have a national lawsuit. We're a little bit smaller. There's thousands of people in these cases, and we're representing, depending on the case, somewhere 30, 40, 100, 200 people, and it's not. So we're probably the more custom firm in a mass tort world.
But I think that sticks with our brand of who we are, because we've always tried to help people in criminal defense, personal injury, and now mass tort. And I think mass tort is just another area that we can help more people at once to help their lives.
Yeah.
And I think so. Yeah, it's a different element of, law and what we're used to, but I think it's still within who we are.
Yeah, and I think the true, my view is the true professional attorneys and the true professional offices, they can move within. It's not about knowing the most about search and seizure and criminal defense. It's about knowing your evidence, understanding people, and advocating really hard for your clients. But I've been really into that world, and the cases, they're going to go to trial. The defense is going to be very aggressive, and you work with a team of other really bright lawyers, and that's been a lot of fun. And then our personal injury practice is growing, our criminal defense practice is growing. Everything has.
Our podcast is growing.
Yeah, everything is working together. I think we got a nice group of people. The move to the new offices, I think, helped everybody.
Yeah.
But I think, going back to what you were saying about like pushing everybody, I always push Bree. Bree, she was pretty young when she started here, and she wasn't used to. I think she thought I was crazy when I told her, she was going to be doing what she was going to be doing. But I know you get good at getting uncomfortable, and you get more skilled at doing new things. Mm-hmm. And we're doing new things all the time now, and we're able to do it a lot better and more efficiently than we were 5 years ago or 10 years ago.
Yeah, I agree.
I
think
it's like learning how to learn, kind of.
Right. Yes. And I mean, that's something that I really appreciate, is maybe not in the moment, but overall, I'm glad that I've learned what I've learned here. So seems like 2024 will be a good year to stick around and see what happens.
Yeah, we're working hard on Camp Lejeune. So I'm working hard on Camp Lejeune and the hernia mesh cases. I was up last night till like midnight reading documents of meetings about materials that meshes were made out of in 2008.
Yeah. All these mass torts are so interesting to me, not to like go off on a tangent, but it's more or less like, how many mass torts are there? A ton, right? How many companies are being sued because they have essentially no compassion? They understand that they're causing people harm and taking people away from their families. Well, like it's
just in the last week or two, the people that own Roundup, they're like, we didn't do anything wrong. Okay, well, whatever it was, 2 or 3 years ago, Amy Wagstaff, very bright lawyer from Colorado, she did the first trial against them, got $80 million. Oh, that was a fluke. We didn't do anything wrong, and they're we're going to trial. Well, in the last 3 weeks, a jury in St. Louis, Missouri, found over $1 million against them for a guy who had cancer. A jury in Philadelphia awarded a different guy $171 million, I think. And then I think just yesterday or the day before, another jury out west, maybe California, San Diego, if I'm not mistaken, for, again, Roundup, the same product, awarded the guy $380 million. Because no jury wants to give away $380 million. No. That's because they're pissed at what this company did.
Right. Like, these companies are handing out products that are knowingly hurting someone and not even telling them about it, like the hair relaxer. Don't you think that maybe if you're going to sell a product that's going to hurt someone, you should tell them the risks, and if they decide they want to do it, then so be it. But they should know that something that they're putting on or in their body is going to hurt them in the future. Like these companies, these individuals who are dying of cancer, you're taking away these family members from their family that they should have never died or gotten sick. It's sickening. Maybe because I have my own personal stuff going on. It just angers me more.
Well, the toxic exposure in cancer, I mean, we're learning so much in the last 20 years about how people get cancer and why they get cancer, and a significant amount of the illnesses that we're seeing, whether it's not just cancer, also Parkinson's.
Whatever disease, yeah.
Correct. Is because of environmental impacts and toxins that are man-made toxins. We're involved in PFAS, water contamination, Camp Lejeune, whether it's TCE or Heralex, or the stuff that is in our environment.
PFAS.
Right. It's serious. And it's our environment, whether it's beauty products or firefighter foam that goes into the ground.
Right.
It
just makes me wonder, like, how many of these lawsuits have to occur before something like within the government is in place that says, like, you know what, these chemicals are not allowed to be used anymore.
Well, it's interesting. Everybody's got their opinion about plaintiffs' lawyers, ambulance chasers, whatever it might be, and the amount of good that comes from plaintiff lawyers bringing cases. And look, it's not all altruistic. There's some asshole plaintiff lawyers, super aggressive, who are, let me be clear, they aren't all out to help people. They're in it for the money.
Okay.
Some of them are. We all want to make a living, and I don't think there's a problem with that.
Right.
But they're bringing, the way you win is by showing unfairnesses and injustices in the world.
Right.
And they want to win. There are people who are fighting really hard for victims. I hope that we are those people. There are also big law firms that are spending tons of money. They're a business too, and they want to make money. But you look at tobacco. People said tobacco was okay. People said the opioids that were getting overprescribed were okay. People said PFAS in the water was okay.
Right. And it's one thing
these
to
cases
say that
these
until
cases
they know
were
it
changed.
hurts them.
These things were changed by plaintiff lawyers. They would not have changed if people didn't file lawsuits and start hitting the big companies where it hurt them, which is in their bank account.
Right. Exactly. That's the whole
So we're not
sad
all that
part is
bad.
people, these companies who are doing this don't listen to the research. They listen to the bank account depleting.
Right.
So, like, how many times do you have to learn before you do the right thing?
Yeah. There's a trial in hernia mesh going on right now. It's a barred case. We're not personally involved in it, but it's a lot of our friends that are involved in it. And I think there's 20,000 cases filed. The product is still on the market today, and no one quite understands why. It's because they're making a lot of money selling this hernia mesh, and they got to develop another product to sell before they can take this one off the market. So I think it's my personal opinion. They'd probably get mad for me saying this, is they got to delay it long enough so they can develop something else to sell, or else their business goes out of business. So it's like
why don't they develop something that's actually going to be useful to people and not hurt them? Anything else? Now that I'm all irritated.
let's cut it here.
Okay. That concludes this episode of the King Law Podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe and check out our socials at King Law Attorneys. And if you've happened to have been injured or charged with a crime, now you know who to call. King Law. Take charge.